the goal of this lecture is twofold. So number one, I just want to show you how easy it is to get an Android app up and running on your computer. Seriously, Android Studio takes so much of the work out of it for us. A couple of button clicks and you're going to be testing your app on your computer. Now, granted, it's going to be an empty app, not all that exciting, but I want you to see like how simple it really is to at least get an app up and testing. That should give you some confidence. Then part 2 of this, I'm gonna break down your confidence a little bit and show you all the different Java code that Android Studio made to get, your initial app up and running, so that you have some sort of motivation to say, okay, I'm gonna go through Java school, Nick's gonna teach me everything that I need to know, and when I come back in the next section to start making apps, I'm gonna feel really confident and I'm gonna know this Java code enough to start building apps, okay? So those are the two purposes here. So let's go ahead and fire up Android Studio. I'm gonna do that nifty trick again to, you gotta be able to spell right though, Android Studio, there we go. And we'll wait for it to load, maybe Bob Brown while we're waiting. Alright, here we are. We want to start a new Android Studio project, so just go ahead and click on this, and you can call this for application name whatever you want. I'm just gonna call this our first, okay? Looks good. Gotta spell that right, our first. Company no domain, do not worry about this for now, we'll talk about it later. Project location, you can change this if you want to put it, save it somewhere. Android Studio has its own place where it saves all your projects for you. I recommend just using that for now. So we'll go ahead and hit next here. It's asking, what kind of project you want to do. We want the phone and tablet one so we can kind of test it out on a phone. And then it will by default have empty activity selected. Just go ahead and use that one. So we'll hit next. Asking you what name you want here. We're just using the defaults. We're just saying Android Studio, go do the work for us. So now Android Studio is doing its thing. It's making this brand new app for us, and it's essentially just writing a bunch of code for us that's saying, all right, most people when they start an app, they want to start from this kind of blank canvas, and they write the code necessary to get us to that blank canvas level. So here Android Studio opened up. It has this tip of the day that I really don't care for. So personally, I choose to, here we go, uncheck that and turn that off. I'll just hit the red X there, and here we have our app. It's open, everything looks great. So if you didn't have this little side menu pop out or anything, just make sure you click on this little button here. This kind of opens and collapses this. This shows all of our different files. And this here is our app. And again, part 2 of this lecture, right? I wanted you to know how important it is to know Java. You're looking at this and you're probably like, this just looks like a bunch of mumbo jumbo garbage. Like, I have no idea what this means. Don't worry, you will with time. But right now, I just want you to make sure that the app is even running. So we're gonna go ahead and hit this green play button, which just means we want to test our app. And it's gonna bring up the screen here. So if you have an Android phone plugged in, you could theoretically test on your device. It takes a little bit of work to set up, and I'll teach you how to do that later in the class. So what we want to do is use an emulator, just something we can run on our computer that just simulates an Android phone. So what we're going to do is hit this create new emulator button. So once we do that, we have the screen pop up that lists what kind of device it is that we want to emulate or simulate. And so you can choose phone, tablets here, wearable stuff. We just want the phone one. I recommend just whatever is the default selected. For me, it was the Nexus 5X. You can totally choose whatever you want. So I'm just going to select that and go ahead and hit next. Then it's going to ask, do you want to use Marshmallow or Lollipop, which these are just different versions of the Android operating system. I love that they choose kind of these dessert names around them. And right now we are on Marshmallow. So we want this x86-64, assuming that you're on that type of system, a 64-bit system. Again, this went back to when you're downloading the JDK. You should know by now which one you want to use, and if you don't, if you choose the wrong one, it just flat out won't work, so go back and try the other one. So we're going to download this Marshmallow one. So we're going to go ahead and click on this, and it starts this whole download process. So I'm going to wait for this to finish. Once it's downloaded, I'm going to restart the video. So I'm assuming you have some waiting to do too. Go grab a snack or something. See you in a second. So all that finished for me. You should see done down here, and then all you got to do is hit this finish button, and that'll be completed. Now you can select this Marshmallow that appears, the one that you downloaded. Just go ahead and hit next. And then it's going to ask for all this information. What kind of scale do you want it to use? What kind of graphic stuff do you want to use it? Again, I just recommend let's use the default on all this stuff. So We'll go ahead and hit finish, and that creates our emulator here. So now you can see it's in this list, Nexus 5X. So now that we have this one, anytime I'm going to exit out of that, we go and hit this run button to test our app and try it out. This Nexus 5X API 23 is going to show up. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and hit OK, and that's going to launch that emulator. So it should be noted, this is going to take a while to set up. Android is pretty notorious for their emulators taking a really long time. This is something that I personally really like iOS development more for, is that the simulators can pop up a lot quicker. But that's not to say that Android isn't terrible. I remember when I first started doing Android stuff, it took forever. And things have gotten so much better. And so you can see already we have a lot of things popping up here. It's getting to a pretty great point. So just know that this might take you a little bit. Your computer may be faster than mine, so it's already ready. It may be slower, but you can see it's trying to like get through this Android loading. You can see that it kind of goes white and gray a little bit. That just means it's trying to get your device all set up. So kind of a pro tip I have is that while you're doing Android development, especially working on an app, you want to keep that emulator open in the background, because once that emulator is loaded for the first time, anytime you make changes to your app or something, it doesn't take like, you know, this 2 to 3 minutes to get things set up and running for the first time. It's just there, and then when you have something new, you hit run, it will just kind of reload the app. So you can see as I've been talking, our app has come and decided to show up here. It's looking great, and this is it. So this was the name of our app, right? Our first, and then it has Hello World down here by default. So if you see these things on your app, you know that stuff is working. And congrats! This is your very first app. So cool. Like, again, doesn't really, you know, do much for you. You can't, you know, you click on stuff here, nothing happens, but at least it's working, okay? So what I want to do from here is, all I want to do is make it so that the background of this app changes colors. And we're going to do that with Java code. And the purpose of this is to show you how much you really need to learn Java, and then we'll go through all the basics. So let's talk about how we can do that. So let's go ahead and click on the Android Studio here where we see some of the code and stuff. And I want you to get to this main activity.java. And if this isn't open by default, you should be able to find it in the side list here. And again, if this isn't showing up, try and toggle hitting this project button over here. And it should be under like app, Java, com.example.android, some random thing, but then the main activity is in there. You might need to open close this, but just double click on main activity. That should pop this up, and this is where we're going to write our very first line of Java code. Woo! This is exciting, okay? So, and again, you might be looking at this and like, whoa, what the heck is all of this crap? I have no idea. Well, don't worry. That's what Java School is for. So what we're going to do is put our cursor here and just do a new line. So now we kind of have a blank line here. And we're going to write our first line of code that's just going to change the background from white to red. That's it. So what we're going to do is type get window. And as you start typing it, you'll see this autocomplete show up at the bottom. And if you just hit enter, it will take what's ever selected there and just fill out the code for you. So if I hit enter, now it's put up get window. And then we're going to do dot. And we're going to type get decor view, and you can see already just by typing get, I got this to show up. You might need to do get DEC or something, and then, you know, hit enter, that shows up. And if you didn't get the autocomplete, if you're typing this, make sure you have lowercase get, uppercase window. Like in programming, spelling and capitalization is absolutely critical. If you misspell something, your code will not run. If you have one, you know, letter that's uppercase that shouldn't be, or vice versa, the code will not run. Like, it will break. So you got to be very careful with programming, and don't worry if this trips you up. This happens all the time to new programmers, even experienced ones. Like, I will go through apps and stuff and it's like, really, I was stuck on something for 20 minutes and it was a lowercase w, like, oh, what the heck. So we have get window dot, then we did the get decor view, then we're going to do another dot, and we're going to type set background, and look at all these different backgrounds. We want to do the get background color, so we could hit enter on it again if it's the top one, or we could just double click it. Okay, so now our cursor's inside of these parentheses, and this is saying, all right, what color do you want to change it to? So I'm going to type capital color, COLOR, dot, and then I'm gonna choose red. Now you could choose some other basic colors, like I think blue's in there, there's black, but I'm gonna choose red, and you see how it's all capitalized and everything. And that's our very first line of Java code. getWindow.getDecoreView.setBackgroundColor color.red. So make sure your line looks exactly like that. And don't worry, you're not supposed to know what any of that means. You know, that's just like a bunch of code. But let's go ahead and hit run here. Okay. So we're gonna hit run on our app. I'm gonna open up our little simulator here, and look, it's red. The background of the app is red, and we did that with code that we wrote. Isn't that cool? I think that's really, really cool. Now this is something that's super basic. We're not doing anything crazy here. But again, the whole purpose of this lecture, one, show you how easy it is to get an app up and running, and you've seen that's the case. Two, was to give you kind of a respect of you're gonna need to know Java to do well in this course. To become an Android developer, you've gotta know Java. So the whole time that we were typing this get window thing, .get decor view, whatever, if you were like, I have no idea what this is, that's fine. That's totally okay. That's what this class is about, is to help you. But I hope you understand by looking at all this stuff, this probably looks like gibberish to you. The first time that I did programming, I was like, I have no clue what any of this stuff is. But when you finish this Java school section, you're going to have a great idea of what all of this code means, and you're going to feel very comfortable going forward with programming. You're not going to be perfect, you're not going to be an expert, but you're going to have the basics, and you're going to come back here and say, yeah, I think I can do this coding thing. So with that, we're going to stop this lecture, and in these next lectures, we're going to move on to actually learning Java code, okay? And I'm going to make sure you are walked with the whole way. If anything's confusing, please post it on the comments to this video, but we're going to make sure you're taken care of. Let's go learn some Java. It's going to be fun.